Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Quotes 365. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been rejected by someone, only for them to come back into your life later, acting as if nothing happened? It's confusing, isn't it? At first, you were dismissed, ignored, or even pushed away. But now, suddenly, they're reaching out, testing the waters, and trying to reconnect. Why does this happen? What's going on in their mind? This isn't just coincidence or luck. It's human psychology at play. And folks, today, we're going to expose the reasons behind this behavior. Rejection can sting, no doubt about it. It can leave you questioning your worth, replaying conversations, and wondering what you could have done differently. But here's the thing, rejection isn't always about you. More often than not, it says more about the person rejecting you than it does about your value. Let's dig deeper. When someone rejects you, it's often an emotional reaction rooted in their own fears, insecurities, or desires at that moment. Maybe they felt overwhelmed. Maybe they weren't ready for what you had to offer. Or maybe they simply didn't see your value at the time. And while it hurts, their rejection doesn't define you. It's just a reflection of their own state of mind. But then something changes. Time passes. Your absence becomes noticeable. They start to reassess their decision. That's when it happens. The very person who once pushed you away begins to see you differently. Folks, this isn't magic, it's psychology. The same qualities they overlooked before suddenly become appealing. The mystery of your silence, the strength you've gained, the calm and confidence you exude. It all starts to draw them back in. Let me tell you this. People often don't realize what they have until it's gone. When you step back, when you stop chasing, and when you focus on yourself, you create space for others to notice what they've lost. It's human nature to want what feels just out of reach. And as you grow stronger, more independent, and more self-assured, you naturally become magnetic. This video is about uncovering why this happens and how you can handle it with grace. It's not about revenge or playing games. It's about understanding the dynamics at play and reclaiming your power. Because, folks, when someone who once rejected you tries to come back, it's not just an opportunity for them. It's an opportunity for you. An opportunity to decide, do I let this person back into my life? Have they truly changed? Or is this just a moment of regret on their part? Throughout this video, we'll explore the phases that lead someone to come back after rejection. We'll talk about how your silence can say more than words ever could, why people start noticing you when you least expect it, and what drives them to reassess their decisions. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the psychology behind this behavior, but you'll also have the tools to handle it with the wisdom and confidence of a Stoic. So, folks, if you've ever wondered why rejection turns into reconnection, stay with me. We're going to break it all down, step by step. Trust me, this is a journey you won't want to miss. Number 1, the reassessment phase. Hey folks, let's dive into the first stage of why someone who once rejected you might try to come back. The reassessment phase. This is where everything begins to shift, and it's fascinating to understand how human psychology works during this time. Rejection, as painful as it might feel in the moment, often triggers a process in the other person that they don't even realize is happening. Imagine this. Someone pushes you away or dismisses you. At that moment, they might feel certain about their decision. Maybe they thought you didn't fit into their life, or maybe they were too caught up in their own emotions to see your value. Whatever the reason, their mind has made up its story. But as time goes on, something starts to change. They begin to reassess their decision. Why does this happen? Folks, it's because absence creates perspective. When you're no longer in someone's life, They lose access to the qualities you brought to the table: your kindness, your support, your unique presence. And here's the kicker. People often don't appreciate these things until they're gone. It's human nature to take what's familiar for granted. Once you're not around anymore, the void you leave behind speaks volumes. Let's tie this to psychology. There's a concept called cognitive dissonance, which happens when someone's beliefs and actions don't align. In the case of rejection, the other person might have convinced themselves that pushing you away was the right move. But as time passes, they start to notice things that don't add up. Maybe they see qualities in you that they overlooked before. Maybe they realize that their reasons for rejecting you weren't as solid as they thought. This internal conflict, did I make the right choice, is the spark that begins the reassessment phase. Another factor at play here is how they perceive your reaction to the rejection. Folks, if you handled it with grace, if you didn't beg, chase, or try to prove your worth, they'll notice. Why? Because your composure challenges their expectations. Instead of validating their decision by reacting emotionally, you've shown strength and self-respect. And let me tell you, that leaves a lasting impression. Now, here's where things get interesting. During this reassessment phase, the person might start to romanticize the past. They begin replaying memories of your interactions, focusing on the positives while conveniently forgetting the negatives. This is especially true if you've moved on or are thriving in your own life. Suddenly, the qualities they dismissed seem more appealing. The moments they brushed off feel more significant. It's not that you've changed, it's that their perspective has. But let's bring Stoicism into the picture. Marcus Aurelius said, "The opinion of 10, so 0 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." What does this mean in our context? It means that someone's reassessment of you, whether it's admiration or regret, doesn't define your worth. Their changing perception is about them, not you. And folks, that's where your power lies. So, how do you handle this phase? First, understand that their reassessment is their journey, not yours. You don't need to do anything to prove your value. It's already there. Second, resist the urge to jump back in, just because they're showing interest again. Take the time to evaluate whether their intentions are genuine, or if this is just a moment of nostalgia on their part. Remember, your worth isn't dictated by whether someone finally realizes it. It's something you carry with you, always. And let me offer you a practical takeaway. The next time you feel the sting of rejection, remind yourself that it's not the end of the story. People reassess, perspectives shift, and often the very thing that felt like a loss in the moment becomes a gain in hindsight. Your job is to stay grounded, focus on your growth, and let time work its magic. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced someone coming back after rejecting you? How did it feel? And what did you learn from it? Drop a quick "I've grown stronger" in the comments to affirm your resilience and share your journey. If this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Together, we're exploring the psychology behind relationships and building the tools to navigate them with wisdom and confidence. That's it for the reassessment phase. Folks, in the next part, we'll uncover how your silence can speak louder than words and why it's such a powerful tool in these situations. Stay with me. There's so much more to explore. Number 2, your silence speaks volumes. Hey folks, let's talk about one of the most underestimated yet powerful tools you have in relationships: silence. In a world that often glorifies constant communication, the idea of doing nothing, of simply staying silent, can feel counterintuitive. But here's the truth. Your silence can speak volumes, often louder than any words you could say. It's a form of communication that demands attention, creates space for reflection, and reshapes how others perceive you. Let's start with why silence is so powerful. Folks, when someone rejects you, their expectation is often that you'll react. Maybe they anticipate anger, sadness, or an attempt to convince them to reconsider. These reactions, while natural, can reinforce their perception of control in the situation. But when you choose silence, you break the cycle. You refuse to give them the reaction they expect, and that shift is powerful. Silence, in this context, is not about ignoring or playing games. It's about setting boundaries and protecting your energy. By staying silent, you're saying, I don't need to prove my worth to anyone. My value remains intact, regardless of your opinion. And folks, that message resonates on a deeper level than any argument or explanation ever could. Psychologically, silence creates a phenomenon called the gap effect. When you remove yourself from someone's life, both physically and emotionally, you create a gap that they can't help but notice. The human brain hates unanswered questions. It starts to wonder, why aren't they reaching out? Are they really okay without me? Did I underestimate them? These questions can lead to reflection, reassessment, and, in many cases, regret. Let's tie this back to your behavior. Silence doesn't mean passivity. It means intentionality. It's a choice to focus on yourself rather than reacting impulsively. During this time, you're not just waiting for them to notice your absence. You're using the space to grow, to heal, and to strengthen your sense of self. Folks, silence is a declaration that your worth is not up for negotiation. But here's the key. Silence works best when it's paired with action. While you're quiet externally, you're building something internally. Maybe you're pursuing personal goals, strengthening your relationships with others, or simply rediscovering what makes you happy. This dual approach, silence coupled with growth, sends a clear message. I'm thriving without you. And let me be clear, silence doesn't mean avoiding closure or important conversations. It means choosing when and how to engage. If someone who rejected you reaches out, your silence has already shifted the dynamic. Now, you get to decide if and when the conversation happens, and on what terms. Folks, that's the beauty of silence. It puts the control back in your hands. Let's bring Stoicism into this. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Silence is the ultimate Stoic response. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about channeling them into something productive. Instead of reacting emotionally, you're responding thoughtfully, or choosing not to respond at all. And that choice speaks to your strength and composure. Here's a practical takeaway. The next time you feel the urge to react to rejection, pause. Ask yourself, what does my silence say in this moment? What message am I sending by choosing to focus on myself instead? Then, let that silence do the work. Trust me, folks, its impact is more profound than you might think. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever used silence as a way to set boundaries or communicate your worth? What was the outcome? Drop a quick "silence is power" in the comments to affirm your belief in this transformative tool. And if this is resonating with you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Together, we're learning how to navigate relationships with wisdom, confidence, and intention. That's it for this section, folks. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of strength. In the next part, we'll explore how the world starts to notice you in ways you never expected. Stay with me. This journey is just getting started. Number 3, when the world notices you. Hey folks, let's talk about something remarkable that happens when you start focusing on yourself. The moment when the world starts to notice you. It's not magic. And it's not luck. It's the result of the energy you radiate when you stop seeking external validation and start living authentically. And here's the thing. This shift doesn't just happen by chance. It's rooted in psychology and human nature. Let's set the scene. You've experienced rejection, and instead of chasing after approval, you've chosen to focus on your own growth. You're pouring energy into your goals, building confidence, and finding joy in the things that truly matter to you. Folks, this is where the transformation begins. As you rise, people around you can't help but notice. Why does this happen? It starts with a change in perception. When you're not seeking attention or validation, you exude a sense of self-sufficiency and confidence. And folks, confidence is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who seem secure in themselves. It's not about arrogance or trying to impress. It's about the quiet power of knowing your worth. There's also something deeply human about how we respond to success. When someone thrives, it sparks curiosity. People start to wonder, what changed? How are they achieving this? And often, this curiosity leads to admiration. This is especially true if the person noticing you is someone who previously rejected or underestimated you. Seeing you succeed without them can trigger a reassessment of their initial judgment. Psychologically, this ties back to something called social proof. When others start acknowledging your growth, it validates your value in the eyes of those around you. Think about it. When someone gains recognition, others naturally want to associate with them. It's why accomplishments, no matter how personal, often lead to increased attention and respect. But folks, here's the most important part. This attention isn't the goal. It's a byproduct of your focus on yourself. If you chase validation, you're still giving your power away. But when you prioritize your own growth, the attention you receive feels genuine because it's rooted in authenticity. People are drawn to you not because you're seeking their approval, but because you've become someone worth noticing. Let's bring Stoicism into this. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." In other words, stop worrying about how others perceive you and focus on becoming the best version of yourself. When you do this, the world naturally takes notice. Now, let's break this down into practical terms. What does it mean to focus on yourself? It's about aligning your actions with your values. Maybe it's pursuing a career goal you've been putting off, investing in your health, or nurturing relationships that truly matter. It's also about letting go of the need to explain or prove yourself to others. Folks, your actions will speak louder than any words ever could. Another key aspect of being noticed is consistency. People are drawn to those who demonstrate commitment and resilience. It's not just about shining in the moment. It's about showing up, day after day, even when it's hard. That consistency builds trust and respect, both in yourself and in the eyes of others. And let's not forget about the role of gratitude. When you appreciate your journey and the lessons along the way, it shows. Gratitude adds a layer of warmth and humility to your confidence, making it even more magnetic. Folks, people notice when you carry yourself with grace and gratitude. It sets you apart in a world where many are consumed by comparison and competition. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever experienced a moment when people started noticing you after you focused on yourself? What changed in your life, and how did it feel? Drop a quick "I'm thriving" in the comments to affirm your commitment to personal growth. And if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Together, we're building the tools to navigate relationships and life with wisdom, confidence, and intention. Here's the takeaway for this section. When the world starts to notice you, it's not about what you've gained, it's about who you've become. And folks, that transformation is priceless. In the next section, we'll explore the regrets that often surface when someone realizes the cost of their emotional reactions. Stay with me, there's more to uncover. Number 4. Regret over emotional reactions. Hey folks, let's take a closer look at something that happens more often than people admit. Regret over emotional reactions. Have you ever said or done something in the heat of the moment, only to look back later and think, why did I act that way? It's a universal human experience, and it plays a significant role in why someone who rejected you might come back. Let's break it down. Emotional reactions are often impulsive. When someone feels overwhelmed, whether it's fear, frustration, or insecurity, they might make decisions they later regret. In the moment, they're not thinking clearly. They're acting out of self-protection or trying to assert control over a situation. This is especially common in relationships. Rejection, for example, might stem not from genuine feelings of disinterest, but from an emotional need to create distance or protect oneself from vulnerability. Now, here's where regret comes into play. Folks, emotions are temporary. They rise, peak, and eventually subside. When the dust settles, people start to see things more clearly. The reasons behind their emotional reactions might no longer feel valid, and they begin to reflect on their actions. This is when regret starts to creep in. Think about a time when you acted out of anger or fear. Maybe you said something hurtful or made a decision you couldn't take back. Once the emotional storm passed, you might have realized the impact of your actions, not just on the other person, but on yourself. This moment of clarity is often accompanied by regret, and it's a powerful motivator for reconciliation. So why does regret over emotional reactions lead someone to try to come back into your life? It's because they've had time to reassess their behavior and its consequences. Folks, rejection often feels final in the moment, but for the person who made the decision, it rarely is. Once their emotions subside, they start to see the bigger picture, the value you brought to their life, the kindness you showed, or the potential of what could have been. And with that clarity comes a desire to make amends. But let's bring this back to you. How should you handle it when someone comes back with regrets? First, recognize that their regret is about them, not you. It's a reflection of their emotional growth, or lack thereof, not your worth. You don't owe them anything, but you do owe it to yourself to decide carefully whether their intentions align with your well-being. This is where Stoicism offers valuable guidance. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This reminder encourages us to focus on what we can control: our actions, our mindset, and our boundaries. You can't change the past or undo their emotional reactions, but you can decide how you respond to their regret. Another key element to consider is sincerity. Folks, regret isn't always enough. What matters is whether the person has reflected deeply and made changes to avoid repeating the same mistakes. If they're reaching out to you purely to ease their own guilt, their regret might not lead to genuine growth. But if their actions show accountability and a desire to rebuild trust, it might be worth considering whether to reopen the door. Let's also talk about forgiveness. Forgiving someone doesn't mean excusing their behavior or letting them back into your life. It means letting go of the emotional weight their actions created so you can move forward. Forgiveness is as much for you as it is for them. It frees you from resentment and allows you to focus on your own growth. Here's something practical you can try. The next time someone expresses regret over an emotional reaction, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, does their regret come with accountability? Are they taking steps to make things right, or is this just about their own guilt? These questions can help you decide how to move forward with clarity and confidence. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a situation where someone came back with regret? How did you handle it? And what did you learn? Drop a quick "I choose growth" in the comments to affirm your commitment to navigating these situations with wisdom. And if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Together, we're learning how to handle life's complexities with grace, strength, and self-respect. Here's the takeaway for this section. Regret is a powerful force, but it's not your responsibility to fix someone else's emotional reactions. What matters is how you choose to move forward, with or without them. In the next part, we'll explore why becoming a challenge again reignites their interest. Stay with me. There's so much more to uncover. Number 5. You became a challenge again. Hey folks, let's dive into one of the most fascinating reasons why someone who once rejected you might try to come back. You became a challenge again. It might sound counterintuitive, but human nature has a funny way of valuing things that feel just out of reach. When you shift your focus away from seeking validation and start living authentically, you inadvertently transform yourself into a challenge, and that change doesn't go unnoticed. Let's unpack this idea. Rejection often comes with an underlying assumption: they'll still be there if I change my mind. It's an unspoken belief that the person being rejected will wait around, hoping for another chance. But when you choose not to linger, when you walk away and focus on yourself, it disrupts that expectation. You're no longer easy to access, and that shift changes how others perceive you. Here's where psychology comes in. Folks, there's a concept known as reactance theory, which suggests that people are motivated to regain something they feel they've lost or can no longer have. When you distance yourself, you create a sense of scarcity around your presence. Suddenly, what was once taken for granted now feels like a privilege to earn. It's not manipulation, it's the natural outcome of prioritizing your own growth and boundaries. Think about this. When you're always available, you're predictable, and while predictability has its merits, it can sometimes lead to complacency in how others view you. But when you step back, focus on your passions, and invest in yourself, you become someone dynamic and evolving. Folks, that evolution is magnetic. People are drawn to growth. It challenges them to see you in a new light. Now, let's explore how this plays out in relationships. When you stop chasing or seeking approval, the person who rejected you might start to feel a shift in power dynamics. They're no longer the one in control of the narrative. Instead, they're left wondering, what's changed? Why are they thriving without me? And that curiosity often turns into attraction. Here's the key, though. Becoming a challenge isn't about playing hard to get or engaging in mind games. It's about genuinely prioritizing your well-being and goals. Folks, when you focus on what truly matters to you, whether it's your career, personal growth, or hobbies, you naturally exude confidence and independence. That's the kind of energy that commands respect and attention. Let's bring Stoicism into the mix. Epictetus said, "He who is not a slave to his desires is truly free." When you let go of the desire to be validated by others, you free yourself from the need to chase or prove your worth. Instead, you become a person who lives with purpose and intention. And folks, that kind of freedom is not only liberating, it's irresistible. Now, let's talk about what this means for you in practical terms. Becoming a challenge again doesn't mean shutting people out or building walls. It's about creating healthy boundaries. It's about showing that while you value connection, you don't rely on it to define your worth. For example, instead of always being the one to initiate contact, you give others the space to come to you. Instead of rearranging your life to accommodate someone else, You prioritize what's important to you. And folks, here's the beautiful part. When someone recognizes that they have to earn a place in your life, it often leads to a deeper appreciation for who you are. They see that your time, energy, and presence are valuable, not something to be taken lightly. This dynamic doesn't just attract people, it elevates the quality of your relationships. Here's a practical takeaway for you. The next time you feel tempted to chase after someone's attention, pause and ask yourself, what am I chasing and why? Is it worth compromising my growth and priorities? Instead, channel that energy into becoming the best version of yourself. Trust me. Folks, the right people will notice, and they'll step up to meet you where you are. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a shift in how others perceive you after focusing on your own growth? Drop a quick "I choose growth" in the comments to affirm your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. And if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Together, we're exploring how to navigate relationships with wisdom, confidence, and intention. Here's the final thought for this section. Becoming a challenge again isn't about playing games. It's about becoming someone who knows their worth and lives accordingly. And folks, that's when the world starts to meet you on your terms. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when someone tries to test the waters after realizing your value. Stay tuned, there's more to uncover. Number 6, testing the waters. Hey folks, let's dive into something that often happens when someone who once rejected you starts to reconsider their choices. Testing the waters. This is the phase where they're not fully committing to reconnect, but they're definitely trying to gauge your openness, your energy, and whether they still hold a place in your life. It's subtle, sometimes confusing, but always intentional. Let's set the stage. Maybe you get a casual text out of the blue. "Hey, just checking in. How have you been?" Or perhaps they start liking your posts on social media or commenting on things they never paid attention to before. Folks, these aren't random acts. They're deliberate attempts to reopen the door without risking too much. Why? Because testing the waters allows them to feel out your response while keeping their ego intact. Psychologically, this behavior ties back to loss aversion. People don't like the feeling of losing something they once had access to. When they sense that you've moved on, or that your energy is no longer focused on them, it creates a sense of discomfort. Testing the waters is their way of minimizing that discomfort, of trying to re-establish some level of connection without fully committing to the vulnerability that comes with it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The way you respond in this phase sets the tone for what happens next. Folks, testing the waters is often less about you and more about them seeking reassurance. They're trying to see if you're still available, still interested, or still affected by their presence. But here's the truth. Your response should be rooted in your growth, not in their curiosity. Let's bring Stoicism into this. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. What does this mean in the context of testing the waters? It means that while you can't control their attempts to re-enter your life, you can absolutely control how you respond. Your power lies in your ability to act with clarity, intention, and self-respect. So, how should you handle it? First, assess their intentions. Folks, not all attempts to reconnect are created equal. Are they reaching out because they genuinely value you and want to make amends? Or are they simply trying to soothe their own ego or fill a temporary void? Look for patterns in their behavior. Consistency and accountability are key indicators of sincerity. A one-off message with no follow-up might be more about testing boundaries than building bridges. Second, take your time. Testing the waters can feel flattering. It's natural to want to respond immediately. But folks, a thoughtful pause can make all the difference. Use that time to reflect on what you want, not just what they're offering. Ask yourself, does this interaction align with my values and goals? Do I truly want this person back in my life? And on what terms? Another important element is boundaries. Just because someone is testing the waters doesn't mean you have to dive in. You have the right to set limits on how much access they have to your time and energy. For example, if they're reaching out casually after months of silence, you might choose to respond politely, but not invest deeply in the conversation. Folks, setting boundaries isn't about being cold, it's about protecting your peace. Let's also talk about your emotional state. Testing the waters can stir up old feelings, both good and bad. You might feel excitement, confusion, or even anger. All of these emotions are valid. The key is not letting them dictate your response. Instead, ground yourself in the progress you've made. Remember the lessons you've learned and the growth you've achieved since the rejection. That perspective will guide you to respond from a place of strength, not vulnerability. Here's a practical takeaway for this phase. If someone is testing the waters, respond with confidence and clarity. For example, if they send a vague message like, "Hey, been thinking about you," you might reply with something like, "I hope you're doing well. What's on your mind?" This keeps the conversation open, but places the responsibility on them to be direct. Folks, your time is valuable. Don't waste it on ambiguity. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had someone test the waters after a period of silence? How did you handle it? And what did you learn? Drop a quick "I value clarity" in the comments to affirm your commitment to maintaining healthy boundaries. And if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Together, we're exploring the dynamics of relationships and learning how to navigate them with wisdom and intention. Here's the takeaway for this section. Testing the waters isn't about you proving anything. It's about staying true to yourself. When you respond with clarity and confidence, you're not just setting the tone for the interaction, you're reaffirming your worth. In the next part, we'll explore the power of inner peace and why it becomes so irresistible to others. Stay tuned. There's more to uncover. Number 7. Your inner peace is irresistible. Hey folks, let's wrap this up with one of the most powerful forces you can cultivate in any relationship. Inner peace. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention, but it has an undeniable pull that draws people toward you. Inner peace is about being centered, grounded, and unaffected by external chaos. And when you possess it, you become absolutely irresistible, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Let's start with why inner peace is so magnetic. Folks, in a world full of noise, drama, and distractions, peace is rare. Most people are constantly searching for validation, approval, or something external to fill an internal void. When they encounter someone who radiates calm and confidence, it feels like a breath of fresh air. Your peace creates a safe space, one where others feel they can be themselves without judgment or tension. But here's the thing. Inner peace isn't something you achieve by chasing it. It's a byproduct of aligning with your values, letting go of what you can't control, and prioritizing your well-being. It's about choosing to respond rather than react, to accept rather than resist, and to focus on what truly matters. And folks, when you embody this mindset, it's palpable to everyone around you. Let's bring this back to relationships. When someone who once rejected you sees that you're at peace, not bitter, not chasing, but genuinely content, it shifts their perception of you. Your peace sends a message: I'm okay with or without you. My happiness doesn't depend on external circumstances. This independence and self-assurance are incredibly attractive because they're rare. Most people, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to stability. And when you embody that stability, you naturally draw others in. Psychologically, this ties to the concept of emotional contagion. People tend to mirror the emotional states of those around them. When you're anxious or unsettled, that energy spreads. But when you're calm and composed, it has the opposite effect. It soothes and inspires others. Folks, your peace isn't just beneficial for you, it uplifts everyone you interact with. Now, let's address the practical side of cultivating inner peace. It starts with self-awareness. Pay attention to what disrupts your calm. Is it other people's opinions? Unmet expectations? Fear of the unknown? Once you identify these triggers, you can begin to address them with intention. For example, if you're prone to overthinking, practice mindfulness or meditation to quiet your mind. If you struggle with setting boundaries, remind yourself that saying no is an act of self-respect. Stoicism offers timeless wisdom here. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Inner peace comes when you stop trying to control what's outside of you and focus on mastering your inner world. Folks, it's about learning to let go, not in defeat, but in liberation. Here's another key to inner peace: gratitude. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude grounds you in the present moment, reminding you that peace isn't something to chase. It's something to notice and nurture. Now, let's talk about how this impacts those who once rejected you. When they see you thriving, not in a showy or performative way, but in a quiet, confident way, it stirs something in them. They start to wonder, how did they find that calm? Why do they seem so unshaken? Your peace becomes a reflection of what they might lack in their own life. And that realization can be both humbling and magnetic. Here's the takeaway, folks. Inner peace isn't about impressing others or proving anything. It's about finding contentment within yourself and allowing that to shape how you move through the world. When you cultivate this kind of peace, you don't need to chase connections. They come to you naturally. Let me leave you with this thought. Your peace is your power. It's the foundation for everything, your decisions, your relationships, and your happiness. And when you prioritize it, the right people, the right opportunities, and the right energy will find their way to you. Thanks for watching, folks. Remember, your peace, growth, and self-worth are your greatest strengths. When you focus on those, everything else falls into place. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe for more insights on navigating relationships with wisdom and intention. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.